Hello, welcome to the Belk on Business podcast. This is Josh Belk, and I appreciate you joining the show today, and I hope to provide value to you on this episode. If you do get value out of this episode, please do me a huge favor and make sure to subscribe to this podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcast, leave me a 5-star review. Thanks again for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, hope you're having a wonderful day today, and I appreciate you listening to the Belk on Business podcast. Today we're going to talk about effective group decision making. So we're going to talk a little bit about group decision making, and one thing that and if you listen to other podcasts out there, and even I think there's a guy on Fox News that kind of condemns groupthink, and it's something we want to avoid. But I think that there is a way that you can go about having a good way of getting a group together and being able to make decisions effectively. So one danger many times of groups is everybody wants to be liked, and nobody's willing to kind of call anybody else to the carpet or be able to have difficult conversations. If you're going to be effective as far as when it comes to making decisions as a group, there's some things that you want to consider. And of course, this list isn't at all comprehensive, but just a few different items that maybe you'll want to consider. First of all, the group needs to have good information. So one thing that in being an accountant, many times we'll go and meet with a client, and they're operating from a position of their opinion, okay, and not necessarily the facts. And when it comes to numbers, of course, the joke out there is, you can make them say whatever that you want them to say, and there is some truth to that. However, when it comes to a group getting together, you have to have good information, good factual information. If you have bad information or improper information, or everybody just coming in with their opinion with no facts, you're going to get undesirable results. Okay, you're going to get bad results. So you need good information. So good factual information is essential, is the foundation for making good decisions. And so if you have that good information, and of course, being an accountant, we like looking at KPIs, and we like looking at metrics and the number side of things. But it doesn't matter if you're going about trying to make a determination on whether or not we should pursue this project versus that project, or maybe we should consider pursuing this client or not pursuing this client. Okay, when you get together, everybody needs to have good factual information, and then from there you can build on it to be able to make good decisions. Secondly, the group has to have trust. And one word I like is the word vulnerability. And being in masterminds, one encouragement usually I'll get every time I walk into the room by the leader of the mastermind or the facilitator of the mastermind is you need to be vulnerable, because you're coming together as a group, and everybody needs to be willing to be vulnerable, to be able to be transparent. Okay, and this is true in a business environment. If you're getting together with your team and trying to make decisions, you need to be vulnerable, because if you're going to build trust, every individual needs to be vulnerable, okay? And what that means is that when somebody's being vulnerable, you don't talk down to them, okay? That is that you're willing to be acceptant of whatever it is or whatever their viewpoint is. So trust, the individuals must be able to trust each other, be vulnerable, yet also be able to keep the end in mind. So individuals aren't looking out for their own interest, okay, but they're looking out for the interest of the group, for the betterment of the group, okay? And then also, if there is some sort of a disagreement, you should be able to disagree agreeably. Probably heard that line before, but to be able to disagree agreeably for the betterment of the whole. Next, be honest about your past performance, both good and bad. So both successes and failures. Okay, and there's a lot you can learn. Sometimes you can learn more from losing or failing than you can from winning or succeeding. Okay, but you need to be definitely honest about past performance. And so every individual, even if it was a success, every individual needs to be able to look at themselves and look at the others and say, okay, here are some areas that we need to improve in. Even though we may have obtained this or won this contract, or we were able to be successful in hitting our goals this particular month, here are some weaknesses that we need to work on. So be honest about past performance, regardless of whether it was success or a failure. Next, be honest about what isn't happening. Okay, so looking at, here's some things that I'm not doing that I should be doing. Here's some things that we as an organization or we as a group should be doing that we aren't doing. So being honest about what isn't happening, and then lastly, being honest about expectations for each individual and as a group. So when you get together as a group, every individual understands what their individual expectations are when they come together, and also what are the expectations as a group. And as a business owner, when I get a group together, and whether it's with a client or with my own team, there should be some sort of upfront expectations of this is where we're trying to go when we meet together. Okay, and this should be true with all of your meetings. Okay, but also for each individual in the group, this is what is expected of you. Okay, and then that way they're not walking into a room and either get blindsided or not truly fully understanding, what's expected of them, and what are some things that they should and should not say. Okay, what is their role? What is their position in that group? That way they have the right mindset coming into the room. So just a few different ideas as far as being able to make good, effective decisions as a group. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.